How do you make that? Is that legal?
No, it's our secret.
The first time you want H1B, you go to India, get it stamped, then come to the US. But if you want to get it renewed, it's still not approved by the State Department. You still have to go back to India,
Yes.
pay around $200 for every H1B renewal, and you cannot do it in America. So is that true? Both parties don't have incentives to improve? So hello everyone, today it's the most important immigration session for our channel because today we will be talking about the future of immigrants, future of H1B visa, why so many immigrants are struggling with getting green cards, H1B visa even in 2024, and which presidency, which side in this election year is going to help you in further improving this process for all of the immigrants. So to answer all of your questions, today we have Stanislav here, CEO of H1B Business Law and also a co-founder. He will be answering all the questions related to it. So hi Stanislav, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Harnor. Thank you for this introduction. I'm really happy to be here and address this complex question and bring the most value to people who follow you on your channel.
Absolutely. So can you give some background about the firm you have created? So you came from Russia at the age of 19. I've heard your story. So what inspired you to create an immigration firm in the US?
So first of all, a few reasons. The main reason that I went through the immigration process myself, and I was working with an American attorney, immigration attorney, and I thought to myself when things were done, I thought that I can do it better. You know, when I saw the work of my attorney, I was like, I can do it better and faster and with a higher quality. And that was my first interaction with the law, and the little small seeds were planted in my head. And as I went along, you know, I was looking for myself. I was looking to find the best way I could apply myself and help bring the best people to the US. And that's how I decided, okay, I think to be an attorney is something that I want to do. And this profession is very gratifying because, you know, you help people to make their dreams come true. So that's what we do, right? We don't file the petitions, we don't get approvals, we don't provide the team for our clients. We making sure that they get their dreams come true. So my company is about 10 years old, and I started from zero. I started from little, you know, like in the middle of the building office, sharing with other attorneys who also started. Now 10 years in, I have a company with about 100 people working for the project. We have 10 departments in the company, and we got more than 2,500 approvals for our clients. We setting up the goal for the company to bring 10,000 people by the year 2030 to the US. So we're about 25-30% in this goal. So we're a little bit behind. We're trying to catch up and speeding up this process. And the mission of my company is to make immigration easier, immigration to the US easier. It's impossible to make it easy, but it's possible to make it easier. So we are specializing in talent visas, national interest waiver visas, and business and investment visas. And you mentioned H1B. We also deal with this visa, but because it's non-immigrant visa, we're looking for the ways to get the green cards for our clients, be they from India, from Pakistan, from Russia, from Germany, from Argentina. Our operations extend to more than 55 countries in the world, and we're really proud of our work and getting more than 90% approval chance for our petitions that we file.
90% approval rate, that is very, very impressive. And you guys are approved all over 50 states because there are rarely firms which are authorized in all 50 states, including DC, right? Absolutely. It's very challenging to get that approval.
Well, when you work with the government, and, you know, and there is a subjective, a human factor in those things. So you have to bring the emotions, you need to tell the story and still follow the law. So that's, I think, our strong sides. We follow the law. We know how to improve the petitions. We have all the resources and instruments, and we know how to bring the emotions in the story to show to the immigration officer not only the black and white case, but also that there is a real person behind it.
Let's warm up a little bit in this political instability where we only listen to one side of opinions. We go to Twitter, we go to X, we go to TikTok. You see completely different opinions. There is no centrist media in the US, so it's really hard for immigrants to have a good opinion about politics and to think about their future. So can you please define what is a fact, how to get the best opinions out of this political instability in America on immigration?
This is a great question, and trust me, every presidential cycle is the same thing. And let me actually start from the end. Regardless who is going to be president, regardless what kind of policies they have, if they're pro-immigrant, if they're against immigrant, no one should postpone their dreams for any number of years. Okay, and from my experience, if you have a case, if you can start today, and if you have the case, if you have the potential in the case, if you have the finance, right, don't postpone it. Start it right now, because it's gonna get only harder in the future. It never became easier, only harder and more expensive. So that's the general. That's actually the conclusion for this whole thing. But let me give you a little more details on that. First of all, there is a huge propaganda machine from the side of Democrats that Donald Trump is against immigration. He's not. Okay, he's not, and he's never been. He is against the illegal immigration. But we are talking only within the framework of legal immigration, EB1, EB2, EB3, EB4, EB5, non-immigrant visas. Those things never been attacked, never been tackled, never been changed, never been worsened. On the contrary, actually, if you look at the statistics, the approval chance of, let's say, EB-1A cases when Trump was the president, which is 2016 to 2017 to 2021, right? So if you can get the statistics of how many cases were filed, and you can get the statistics of how many cases were approved. And I did all the math. It was 65% of approval chance. And by the way, we got the 90%, right? So 65% across the board. But when Biden came to be a president, which is 2022, 2023, 2021, 2022, 2023, right? And if you look at the statistics of his immigration policies, that 65 dropped to 50. So the question is, who is better towards the legal immigrants? Because it's impossible to imagine that the cases got worse for such a short period of time. It's impossible. So first of all, Trump is not against the legal immigration. Second of all, it looks like Democrats are kind of a little bit pushing down the statistics. Why? Because they bring a lot of illegal immigrants, right? That's the difference. They're for illegal immigrants. Trump is for legal immigrants. So this is a very controversial topic, but I'm of opinion that Republicans are actually better for the legal immigrants because they close the door to illegal immigration. So the need and demand for legal immigrants is actually increasing. So the USCIS has to act on this, giving more approvals to the petitions, and we see the empirical data on this. That's one. But number two, and I think it's even more important, within the next 4 years, whoever is the president, nothing really is going to change, okay? The change is going to be gradual, and I believe with Democrats it's going to be going down, so it's harder to come to the US. With Republicans, it's actually gradually going to go up. But within the 1, 2, 3, 4 years, it's not going to be noticeable. What's going to be noticeable if Democrats go for the second term or Republicans going for the second term. So then we're talking about 8 years now. Within 8 years, yes, you're gonna change. You're gonna see the change, and again, like I believe that's gonna be better with the Republicans.
Interesting, but at the same time, you agree that both parties have less incentive to improve the immigration system because immigrants don't vote, US citizens vote, and they decide the future of immigrants. Is that true? Because if we look at even a simple change of H1B renewal in the country, the first time you want H1B, you go to India, get it stamped, then come to the US. But if you want to get it renewed, it's still not approved by the State Department. You still have to go back to India,
Yes.
pay around $200 for every H1B renewal, and you cannot do it in America. So is that true? Both parties don't have incentives to improve?
So before I answer this question, let me make a little comment for your Indian people on H1B. We actually have probably around 40 to 50 cases as we speak with Indians on H1B who also qualify for EB-1A, right? So if you have, and I know we're going to talk more about this, right? But there is a way out from Indians from H1B to get EB-1A and get a green card in 2025 instead of Lord knows when. So that's important to know because nobody wants to be a slave on a boat, right? And like you said, going back to India, renewal, and then this and that, and spending and flying and logistics is very expensive. So that's really bad for the reputation of the states. But again, I think that actually those things concerning the immigration laws they are actually bipartisan. I don't believe that either a party or individuals in those parties want to bring legal immigration down because there is a huge demand for the legal immigration in the US. It costs millions and millions upon millions of dollars for the US government to bring up that engineer from his kindergarten, his school, his education, his training, his internships, whatever that means, that infrastructure they build, these schools, universities. So why don't we take those trained, experienced, high-quality engineers from the abroad and bring them to the States? And actually, they have to pay. It's not the States. So it's hard to imagine that anybody with solid mind will want to get rid of that. So I think overall, as a conclusion, both parties agree that we need to bring those people in and not to make it harder, but it's still getting harder, regardless of that. I don't know why, I don't know where it's coming from, but they don't make it easier, they make it more complicated and more expensive. Again, if someone is no H1B and they're tired of going back and forth and don't know when the EB2, which was approved a few years ago, is going to kick in, there are ways out of that to get the green card really fast, regardless who is in power.
Okay, so why is the process so slow now? It's been almost 4 years we've been talking about the renewal of H1B in the country, and it's still not happened. Why it's so slow?
Nobody knows. The last time I've been to the AILA conference in Chicago, which was actually a couple of months ago in July, there was a representative of the USCIS, and they said that they're really understaffed. And the number that they called was probably around 20 to 25%, which is crazy. This is crazy. Imagine, Harnor, if a business is 25%, like private business is 25% understaffed, what's going to happen to them? All right, they're going to disappear. But because this is government, it cannot disappear. Then 25% is understaffed. So we're trying our best. The good news that the last year it was like 35% understaffed. So now they're really getting better. So I think that's the one thing. And thing number two is that to create some infrastructure within the government agency, they need to put a lot of resources to do things digitally, first of all, and they're trying to digitalize the immigration system slowly but surely. So it's just very slow because it's government, it's inefficient, they're looking for money, they do things that they don't work, they need to bring more money, they look for it. So it's inevitably coming. It's inevitably coming. When? Probably within 2 years. That's my best forecast for this.
Interesting. So since we already discussed that the chances of immigration system improving is very slow, so it's very important for immigrants on EB2, EB3 process who want to like be on a non-immigrant to immigrant visa in the US, they have to expedite, they have to take action really fast. So let's talk about the options people have. Let's say someone is on H1B visa currently and they want to get into EB2 NIW. So NIW is very common, which is known for national interest waiver, that you expedite your process to get green card faster. Can you break it down how easy it is and what's the process like?
Yes, of course. The first comment to this question is that EB2 and IW is actually not the way out for Indians to get a green card. That's just a little caveat that we need to mention. But for any other nation, well, because of the priority dates, because Indians are filing so many cases for the second category, immigration, employment-based category, that and there's a quota, there's a limit for the country, which is about 7% max out of the whole visas available. So they file so much that the backlog is building. And right now, for Indians, the backlog for EB2 category, regardless if it's EB2 or EB2 in IW, is about 12 years. So, and many Indians actually do have EB2 approved through the labor certification through one of the employers in the past, and the priority date is set sometime in the past as well. But again, they have to wait maybe for 10, 8, 7 years, very, very long. And EB-1A is the way out of it, which we're going to discuss a little bit later. For everybody else, EB2 and IW is a really good visa if you are from STEM category. What is STEM? Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Or you have business in the STEM, like you are a businessman who is selling fertilizers, right? Fertilizer is agro sector, so it's actually a STEM category. What do we need for EB2 and IW? 3 main criteria. Number 1, either higher education or exceptional abilities or in lieu instead of the higher education. So, for example, it must be either bachelor's and 5 years of experience, or master's degree and experience is not required in this case. Or sometimes, and it's mostly comes to IT people and businessmen, right? They may have degree but in something else, which doesn't work, or they may not have any degree. They just self-learned, self-reared, let's put it this way. So for this category, we have exceptional ability, which is measured by 6 criteria. For example, 10 years of experience, certification, professional associations, contribution in the industry, and others. So we need to satisfy 3 criteria out of those 6 to qualify for the next step. So to summarize, the first criterion is either bachelor's and 5 years of experience, master's degree, or exceptional ability. Once we pass that, we need to show to the US government what kind of project, what's the idea of the project we will be working on in the future. And that project, that idea must be of the substantial merit and of national importance. What it actually means, no one knows. But from our experience, we can tell that substantial merit can be translated as we resolve some problem, or we create something new. It's mostly resolving of a problem, 95% of the cases. I had one EB2NW back in the day where the guy was building the factory for knives. He was producing the knives, right? So he was not resolving the problem of absence of the knives, but he was creating the new factory, which brings economical impact, right? But in many other cases, just there is a problem, let's say cybersecurity. Right? We know that every single second, every financial institution, bank in the US is being attacked by hackers, DDoS attacks, and stuff like this. So it's a problem, right? Because people lose money, banks lose money, they spend a lot of resources. So we have the problem, and we want to bring, for example, a solution to that problem, a better cybersecurity system, right? Now, the second factor in the national interest is the solution of this problem important to the U.S. government? So is the preventing hackers from attacking U.S. financial system important to the U.S. government? Absolutely. There's no questions asked. And of course, we'll find the evidence for that and expert letters and everything. So with substantial merit and national importance, we have the national interest, right? So that's the second criteria. So let's summarize. The first one is education or exceptional ability. The second one is the project in the national interest of the US government. And the third one and the last, and by the way, I don't go by the book, I go by ease of understanding. Okay, so if you actually read the law, it's a little bit different, but it's very complicated. So I'm breaking it down so it's easy to understand. So the third criterion is actually to be well positioned to implement that project that we promise. What does that mean? Well, that means two things. What we've done in the past to prove that we will be able to realize this project in the future. So in example with cybersecurity, if we've been working, let's say, in the banking system for past 7 years, we created a platform that protects the bank or the industry from attacks. We successfully decreased the number of attacks by 30% for the past 5 years for this particular bank, for example. Maybe we write some articles on that. Maybe we go to the conference to speak about this. Maybe we wrote a book. Maybe we are to be considered expert in a field by other experts, right? Maybe we have certification, maybe courses. Whatever that is, whatever we have in our career in the past, it's all showing that we will be well positioned to implement in the future. So that's the past side. Sometimes the projects need funding or some other things to be implemented. So like that example with the factory for the knives, right? You can start it from zero. You need to have like $1 million to start a factory, right? So if you don't have that $1 million and business plan, you're not well positioned because you cannot implement that. So we need to show that we have the money in case we have to. Many STEM professions don't need the funding because most of the services is here, intellectual, right? So no funding needed, just to show that we've done it in the past successfully and we do it in the future. So that's what EB2 and EB is. That and trust me, Harnor, no one can explain it better than I did. With due respect to all attorneys, right? So it's 3 criteria: education or exceptional abilities, project in the national interest, and well positioned to implement that project. Once we get it all together, and we file the case and it gets approved, we get the priority date. And for everybody but Indians, the whole process will take 2.5 years from start to finish.
Excellent. And like EB2 and EB is important for people to consider because that's the easiest option as compared to EB-1A. And EB2 and EB3 have long wait times. Can you elaborate on EB2 and EB3? Can you elaborate on EB2 and EB3 situation for Indians right now?
It's terrible. There's no other way to explain it. EB2 is probably 12 years wait, and EB3 is about 15, depending on the category, if it's skilled or unskilled employee. So, and some people may think, oh my God, if it's that long, I'm on H1B, and my employer is actually offering me to do the EB2, maybe I should pass on this. Why would I wait for like another 12 or whatever, 15 years? And that would be wrong. Why? Because if the employer is doing it for free, there is no harm to the Indian employee. But what's even more important, once they get that EB2 approved, we get the priority date, right? And once we get the same person in the future approved for EB-1A for the talent visa, we will be able to substitute the priority dates. So the way it will happen, once EB-1A approved, we would ask to substitute the priority dates, and it will look as if EB-1A was approved at the time when EB-2 was approved. And because there is a small, small backlog for the EB-1A for Indians as well, it's not as huge. It's like 2.5 years. But the further the priority date for EB2 in the past, the better for us, because if it's before March 2022, that means we can file for green card immediately. Right? So, for example, very complicated topic. For example, we have an Indian on H1B visa since 2016, right? So he got H1B 2016. 2019, he got approval for EB2 with his employer. So his priority date, let's say 2018, because it's we look at the perm filing, not the approval of I-140. So his priority date, let's say March 2018. Now, today, we start working on his case. 6 months in 2025, we get an approval with the EB-1A priority date, let's say April 2025. So once we have the approval, and we will have it, we ask the US government to substitute the EB-1A priority date of April 2025 as if it was approved back in 2018 when EB2 was approved. And because 2018 is below the current priority date for Indians for EB-1A, which is March 2022, we can request adjustment of status and get the green card within 9 months after approval for Indian client.
Impressive. Let me break them down. So what you're saying is, let's say an engineer is working for a big tech company and they start the EB2 process, which is very common for engineers. Let's say the priority date is, let's say, January 2018. Now they come to you in 2024 and they start the EB-1A process with extraordinary abilities. You will get them to the priority date of 2018 so it can be expedited. This is excellent. Exactly. How do you make that? Is that legal?
No, it's our secret. Yes, it's actually, not too many attorneys know about this, but this is perfectly legal. Not only that, I remember sometime in the past, maybe 2-3 years ago, USCIS was like pushing this agenda, like trying to educate the attorneys, like, hey guys, don't forget, there's this statute in the immigration law that says you can ask for substitution of the priority dates if you have other I-140 approved. So it could be EB2, EB3, EB4, EB5, whatever, right? So once we have that priority date, it applies across the board for all EB visa categories. And we've done it successfully many, many times. And we've already built that trust in the Indian community. And you know how it works with you guys, with Indians. One got approval with a good attorney, then the floodgate is open. So that's why we have so many cases right now, and we're getting more and more and more every day because everybody wants to get off the boat. And it seems like there is not too many attorneys who could not only get you improve your case, get you approved with a very high chance, ask for the substitution, and do it fast with a high quality.
Excellent. That's very impressive. Now, I think as an immigrant, we need to have some trust in the system. And to build that trust, can you share how fair the process is? It starts with an engineer when they are filed for a PERM process, PERM, which basically means that they put the job posting, hey, we are looking for an engineer, and they put it for 2 weeks on their website, and they allow all the Americans go ahead and apply. Now, Americans are competing with that immigrant, and when they proved they couldn't find any US citizen for that job, this immigrant is outstanding in this field and eligible for this position. And that's how it starts. Can you share how fair this process is? Is there loopholes that people are taking advantage of? People blame, even merit-based immigrants are blamed for taking American jobs right now? How how fair is this whole process?
Very good question. And I just want to emphasize that we switched from EB2 and IW to just EB2, the labor certification EB2, which is a little bit different. It's the same category, but different process. To be honest with you, I do believe it's a little bit unfair process. Not because people are taking advantage of this or something like that, just because the means of testing the American market is so outdated. No one is looking job like this. No one is buying Sunday newspaper anymore, right? No one is going to the Craigslist, and especially if you're qualified engineer, IT, you're either looking for the recruiting agency or you go to big websites and trying to look for the job there. And there is no requirements into the law to do those things. You may do that if you choose, but no one is choosing that because there are other ways to look for employees, which is unlikely to find any, right? So from that standpoint, I think it's a little bit unfair, outdated. The law was created many, many years ago, which didn't take into account the new technology, the new advances. With this being said, I think still, in totality of the circumstances, the quality of the engineers, IT, doctors, architects, cybersecurity specialists, blockchain specialists from the abroad is above average. And the motivation and the work ethics, I know how you guys Indians, you are workaholics. I mean, Japanese go to bed, Indians are working. You guys are just bringing so much value to this country. So, I mean, of course, the company wants to bring that specialist in the company and put them on a boat and pay him less than everybody else and get a lot of value out of it. From that standpoint of view, no American would do this, because my wife is an electrical engineer. She's 7 years in the field, maybe even more. And I know, she tells me how those young Americans who just out of the university, they want right off the bat $200,000 salary, all the benefits, the office for themselves, and this and that. And what do you bring to the table, right? Just your degree. When we have this guy from India, with 10 years of experience, with like everything in the package, and not requiring that much money, right? So from that standpoint of view, I think the totality of the process is very good, and it should be like that.
Wow. So you're saying that immigrants, even merit-based immigrants, are somehow taking advantage because of the system over Americans. But overall, the process do bring skill-based immigrants.
Absolutely. The immigrants bring more value than the majority of the young American professionals.
Wow, this is really informative. I think people really need to realize that this system has loopholes, and they should realize it's not just skill, it's also privilege that America favors immigrants, that we are here today.
Absolutely, yes. You and me were immigrants, and we're talking about this, right? What's the better example of that, of being here and grabbing those opportunities from the US government and building on it?
Excellent. Now let's move on a little bit to EB5 as well. You invest $900K in a business in America, and you are considered for green card. How does it work? Like, do I just invest $900K in Berkshire Hathaway's how does it work? Do I just invest like $900K in Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's stock? And like, because a lot of people make a lot of money in stocks, they get green card. Is that easy? What are the criteria people need to know?
So I wish the program worked the way you described, because that would be a total blast for everybody. But it's a little bit different. So EB5 is the investment program for clients with a higher budget. Let's put it this way. It's split in two significant parts. The first one is a passive investment. The second part is an active investment. So let's start with the passive investment. That part of the program is called investment, but in fact, it's a mid-term loan to the US economy in exchange for the green card. And that's how it works. It's $800,000. It used to be $900. That's why you said it, because it used to be like that. Now it's $800,000, which you loan to so-called regional center. Regional center. What is a regional center? Regional center is an American company, private company, usually a developer who is accredited, licensed by the US government to accept that money. So it's not just a company from the street. It's not the opportunity to grab to investing in stock or better in Bitcoin. So it's a company that actually builds, and they want the cheap money, right? So that's the whole purpose, the cheap money from foreign investors. They get that $800,000, and this amount is refundable in about 5 years from the beginning. That money is going to be returned to the investor once the project is accomplished, right? Plus a little bit interest payment on that. And with the passive investment, you don't have to do nothing. Okay, you just get that money. Of course, we need to prove the source of funds, how we made that money, we pay the taxes and all the movement of the money. But once we cross that, by the way, today we got approval for EB5 in the morning in the passive side of that. The case was in February 2022, but things changed since then. Now it's approval can be done within a few months, so it's really fast. So that's EB5 passive investment. That's the first one, right? The $800,000 clean money for 5 years as a loan, a little interest, and a green card for the whole family, mama, papa, and kids, right? So if it's 2 kids in the family, 4 green cards for one investment. The second part is an active investment. That's when we need to invest $1,050,000 in our own company. And once we get, it's the same thing. We need to show the money that it's legal. We need to show the business plan, and we are in control of the money. Because in the passive, you don't control the money. The original center does. Here, we control and direct our company, and we choose how to spend that money, but we need to create 10 jobs within 2 years after we get granted the first green card. Okay? So you're in control, but you also take all the business risks with the active investment. With passive investment, all the business risks is on the regional center. And believe me, those guys have skin in the game. It's not that like, okay, if we didn't do the 10 jobs for this investor, it's okay. No, it's not okay. They make money on those projects. So it's their goal to be successful in those projects. So these are 2 parts, and everybody is free to choose if they want to get more risk but control the money, or if they want to do nothing with no risk and spend less money and just get the professionals to do their work. And about 90% of the investors that I work with, they go with the passive investment. With this being said, I just filed the EB5 for active investment. The guy is building the farm, and he's gonna grow blueberries in the farm.
Oh, nice.
And yes, and make an ecotourism, building a little hotel, a little lake. So like people like CEO from New York are tired of the jungles. It's the New York. He can go and milk a cow and go to fall asleep in the hay, and pick up the blueberries. So it's a really good, a nice project.
Why do you say that the passive investment route of investing 800K in like US government is risky? Because US government has never defaulted its debt. Why is that risky?
So maybe I misspoke. I don't think it's It's risky to the extent that the risk is a part of the law. The law actually says that your money must be at risk. What does it mean? That means that we can partially or fully lose the investment. Okay? So that's what we need to show, that there is a risk in this. With this being said, I do believe that when you go with the regional center, which is a private company but accredited by the US government, I think we have less risk here because these people have done a bunch of those projects. They do want to have the reputation to be great, so they want to lose nobody's money, and they know what they're doing, and they know how to create those jobs. When you do the active investment, I think this is it's more risk. It's risky here because yes, you control the money, but if you make the mistakes because you knew or you don't have enough advice or consulting, something goes wrong, COVID comes, war comes, whatever may happen, right? You take all the risks, and that could be detrimental to the approval of the petition.
I think risks are written in terms of law. They're more risk in terms of the law, how it is written, as compared to practically how risky they are. Because I personally think the 800K buying US government bonds or giving it to US government might be safe, because I have never seen an example of that failing. But on paper, that is risky.
Exactly. So, on paper, there must be a risk. But in fact, there is very little or practically none. And they don't really buy the bonds or the government papers. What they usually do is like they build like the Hyatt hotel. Right? Because remember, they need to create the jobs, right?
Yes.
So if you buy the bonds, you don't create any jobs unless it's a part of something bigger scheme, legal scheme, of course. So they prefer to develop something, build a new block of houses, or redevelop the older hotel into the new one, or build a restaurant, or build a road, or the bridge, right? So those projects, when they're fully financed, and we only choose the projects for our clients in a short list for the clients to choose from that list, only the projects that fully financed by the regional center itself, by the private investors and the bank. So, and you would ask me, like, Stanislav, if they fully finance, why would they need the money? Well, that's easy. If you go to the bank and get a loan, they're gonna give you 8 to 12% on that. And from the foreign investor, they're gonna give you like 0.5%, right? So that's where the intent is. That's why they need that money. So they basically substitute, right? They get like 1 million from this guy. They go to the bank, here, take the million and close that part of the loan, so we don't have to pay the interest on it. So that's how it works.
Impressive. So it's a win-win situation for both. So if you invest in regional business, which is what they recommend, it can bring your strong profile. You're lending 800K, you are getting basically 0.5 interest rate in return.
Up to 3%.
Up to
actually.
3. That's like way less than what if they have gotten from a bank, which was like 12% interest rate. They would have been paying really high interest. Now that is the win-win situation for both. Now let's segue into O1 and EB1A, because most engineers think it's more risky to go into EB5 because $1 million investment is more risky psychologically. Psychologically. Now, so can you explain how is that route? Because I have seen engineers getting EB1A with just publications or getting publicized their work in media, and like these are the ways I've seen. Now, how practical it is.
In my career, I probably wouldn't be mistaken if I tell you I got over 100 engineers petitions approved in the US. And EB1A or O1A is not only for engineers, IT professionals. I do believe, I have this mantra, I have live streams on my YouTube channel on Thursdays, right? And I always repeat it so people, like it's almost like NLP, right? You program yourself and then you act like this. Any good professional in the field can get EB1A or O1 for that extent, right? So if you're a good engineer, if you're good IT, if you're good analyst, back-end, front-end, AI, by the way, AI is, it's a buzzword for immigration officer. as much as like cybersecurity, all those words, engineer, those are buzzwords. Like oh, they resonate to them because they know that we need those people. So it's practical and totally possible to do, and especially for Indians, because you guys basically at the beginning have 3-4 criteria for these cases, and we can improve on them. Just the nature of the work of engineers and other professionals is just organically we get those criteria. Why do I talk about criteria? Well, because those are talent visas, and USCIS has a measure of the talent. Because for you, Hanor, Stanislav is not talented. For a guy across the road, I'm a talented guy, right? So how do you measure? It's subjective, different filters, different experiences. So that's why the law has the measure of the talent. And the measure is kind of point-based system. It's like a lot of people like Canada, Australia, point-based system. It's just not called like that, but in fact, that's what it is. So we have 10 points, I say 10 criteria. And in order for us to get approval for O1 or EB-1A, we need to satisfy at least 3 out of those 10, okay? So what are those criteria? And it's 10, but we're going to mention only 8 because the other 2 is for the art, like artists, models, bloggers, influencers, beauty masters, movie and stuff like this. And of course, not to say that we have those petitions, but for the sake of time. Those criteria are awards, judging the work of other professionals, professional associations, press articles about the client, about us, right, if we're clients, then contribution in the field, significant and innovative, critical leading role in a company with distinguished reputation, the commercial success, so higher income among the same professionals, and scientific publications, okay? So those are 8 criteria. Most of engineers, or for that extent, Indians on H1Bs here in the US, just by the way they do things, they have the critical leading role. They have judging of work of other professionals. And why the critical leading role? Let me explain. So so people don't think I make things up, right? Most of those guys working for H1Bs, working for larger or famous companies, because only those companies sponsor for H1Bs, right? So no questions asked. Facebook, Amazon, the Walmart, Visa, all those companies, they're huge. So of course they have reputation, and wherever our client is doing in those companies, they do play critical role, meaning they do the important function. Or it's a leading role when they control and direct people below them, right? So usually we have 2-3 companies, because people on H1B switch works also, switch the employers. So that's the first criterion. The second one is judging the work of the professionals. And usually it's done through competitions when you call as a judge, but there is an alternative way to do this. If within your work terms, you are assessing and reviewing the work of other professionals, and engineers, IT, cybersecurity, they all do this as a nature of the work. So that's the second criterion, right? The third one would be the contribution in the industry, which I think is the most important out of all 8 or 10. Why? Because you can stem everything else out of it. So let's say we have an engineer who's working for Nextera, right, for the big energy company in the US, and he's working on design of the solar system fields, solar panels, and he's creating the unique designs to get the more sun, the more energy, and store it in the batteries, so it's cheaper to sell then, right? So is his designs and that all these transactions are contribution in the industry that they're unique and significant, of course, right? So those projects, or another example, if you're engineer in the Bank of America and you created the protection system for the clients so people don't lose money when they log into the phishing, so they protect it from phishing attacks, right? So is it important for the industry? Yes, it is important, and it's through the work that we do on a daily basis. So just right off the bat, we can get 3 criteria, and in many times the commercial success is one of them too, especially for guys who worked a little bit more in the industry, so they got the experience, they changed a few employers, so their salary is above, and as long as we get 20 to 30% more for the salary, that's the commercial success. So we already have 4. In many cases, we didn't even do anything, right? Of course, we need to describe it and do it right in the future. It's a lot of work, but we have the potential already. And what's left? Let's do the press articles, and the scientific publications through the PR agencies. Right? And we do know all the PR agencies that help our Indian, Pakistani, Russian, German, Argentinian, Venezuelan clients to get those things done. So my magic number for EB-1A is 6 criteria, right? From the example below or above, depending how you look, that's the press, the judging the work of other professionals, the contribution in the field, critical leading role, salary, and the scientific publications. If you're an IT person, we know the associations that do qualify as a criterion. So it could be 7. And people participate in hackathons or get grants or things like that. Those could be awards, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as complicated to get those criteria done.
Wonderfully explained. Like, I think these 3 to 4 criteria can be easily fulfilled by engineers. But can you share who should go for the O1 route and who should go for the EB1A route?
So that's a great question. O1 is divide everything in EB1A by 2 or 3, right? Although we have 90% approval rate for across the board, for O1 it's 99.999999999. Almost everybody can be approved for O1. So two options when we file for O1 instead of EB1A. The first one is when the time is of the essence. Okay, we need to fast. We need to either act fast because the person is in the US, or they want to come fast from the abroad to start working in the US. And O1 could be fulfilled within 8 months. 6 months working on the case and 2 months getting the visa in the embassy, or in the US, you can just change your status and start working immediately. So that's the first option. Option number 2 is when we don't have enough evidence for EB1A. Right? Like we have only one company. We don't have commercial success. Maybe instead of, we don't have contribution in the field, right? But we have the judging. So less criteria and less prestigious criteria means that we should try first for O1, get it approved, and then build on top of it.
Excellent. Now,
let me add also one little thing, Harnor. I'm sorry. A lot of people on H1B should look at O1 as an alternative to get before the file for EB1A if they don't have enough evidence and the H1B is running out.
So it's a great alternative. People should keep that in mind. And I think depending on their profile, you recommend O1 or EB1A based on how strong their profile is, right?
In many cases, yes. How strong and how fast we need to get those things done.
Awesome. Last few questions from subscribers. One subscriber mentioned that now, since non-profit companies are becoming big tech like OpenAI, and for non-profit companies, they get H1B cap exempt visa. So do you think it's a good idea for them to now like push a little bit harder on getting job into OpenAI? And companies like these, like there are a lot of NGOs which are also having great big tech side, or tech side of NGOs is very common these days. So how is the green card route different? How is the green card route different with H1B exempt, or So how is the green card route? How is the green card route different between H1B exempt side versus H1B side in terms of speed?
No difference. There's no difference. So as long as we have the legal status in the US on H1B, regardless which exactly H1B that is, and we have the criteria for EB-1A, doesn't matter. We're gonna get it approved.
Got it. So like, but you will recommend engineers to like run a little bit more behind the H1B cap exempt, right? Because like currently we live in a world that immigration lawyers and companies do not allow us to go for D1 CPT if we don't get picked up for 3 H1B lottery attempts, right?
It's true. Well, that's how they do, and a lot of those attorneys are in-house, and they don't want complicated cases. Okay, they want same thing every day, so to get paid for what they do, and nothing extra. I think there is no difference, and again, there is a technical side of it, which is very complicated. I'm not going to address that, but I want to add to this that all of those guys who, for whatever reason, didn't get selected for H1B should definitely look at O1A option, because they have an employer, they have the higher education, they have the experience. That's enough to build on to get O1 and start them to work here.
Awesome. So if they cannot get into companies like OpenAI or like, non-profit organizations, then O1 is the most feasible and affordable option.
Absolutely.
And do you recommend all the engineers or students who are finding jobs, they should always look for E-verified employers so that they can have a good path of citizenship and perm process, right?
E-verified is a good thing to have. However, the more important thing is to have an employer who is willing to go through the labor certification process. Because H1B in itself, it's 6 years and that's it. So if you didn't do anything sometime throughout those 6 years, then it's going to be over and you have to get out or go back to school or go to O1 and do something else. So I would rather have not E-verified company, but the company that's willing to file for EB2 in the future.
Excellent. That's a great advice, because I had heard that E-verified is important for a lot of like filters when you apply for companies as a student, but this is a great advice. I think sometimes people say getting the vibe by asking by email or by phone from the HR if they apply for EB1, that's more important than checking, oh, this is E-verified or not, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, EB2.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, last would be, how can people watching this video who want to have a great status in the US or they want to bring their parents in the US, how can they use your immigration firm and to contact you, and any discounts for them?
So, to answer in the totality of the circumstance to your question, in my company, we developed this service that's called free evaluation. All right. It's absolutely free, as the name says it. It's a form that an engineer, IT, doctor, whoever the professional is, need to fill out. And the link is going to be below this video to fill out the form. And I get that information, and it takes me 2 days to analyze it and get back to the person who filled it out with the initial analysis of the future case and what that person is going to know. First of all, which visa is the best option for him or for her, which criteria we satisfied, which we're going to work on and it's possible to improve on. And most importantly, if the case has the potential to be worked on with my team and myself for the next 6 months and get improved to the level of more than 90% chance of approval, right? Mm-hmm. And if I see that potential in the case, then I will invite a person to complex immigration planning, where in 2 phases, I will create the written winning strategy for the case. So that would be the second step. And once that is done and everybody is aware what needs to be done, how much it's going to be, what are the steps, what is the process, then the third step is to hiring my company for the complete case filing, which is going to go for the next 6 months with a great chance of success.
Excellent. So everyone watching, go click the form in the description below and get started. Thank you so much, Stanislav, for answering every single question so well. It was really, really insightful for me and for everyone watching. Thank you again.
Thank you, Harnar. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure. Yeah. See you. Have a great day.
Good luck.